Hey everyone, I am back with another video, finally. I know I've been gone for a while, but I am back and I'm back. Before we get started, guys, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. So, the DC universe has been a mess for the past decades. You know, I think the only thing that has been holding the DC brand is Batman. He has. He's been holding the DC brand. He has had hits like The Dark Knight, The Batman, uh, Michael Keaton's Batman. The Batman is really the thing that's holding the DC universe. I think also Superman when Christopher Reeve was around, but now you know Batman has been holding with gaming, with shows, with and with movies. And I talked about in my last video about how can the DC universe, can the DCU surpass Marvel? I gave my answers. Go check that video out. I told you about that, but and I gave an answer when I said, relate no, not right now. After 2027, but the DC brand, it has been a mess, counting the Snyderverse. Now, I'm not a Snyder hater. Before y'all come on and saying I'm not a Zack Snyder hater, I'm just gonna give my opinion. I think the Snyderverse kind of did ruin the DC brand in a lot of ways. I think after Henry Cavill was fired, people started to be like, man, right now, I'm just gonna be a Marvel fan now, or I'm just gonna focus on Marvel because DC right now is a mess. The only hit in the Snyderverse was Aquaman, and it made $1 billion, which is good. But that's really kind of the only thing. Um, and the Snyderverse had some good movies. Like I thought Man of Steel was good. I thought Wonder Woman was good. I thought Shazam was good. Thought the Suicide Squad was good. I thought Zack Snyder Justice League was good. Um, I thought Aquaman was good. But I think everything after that, it kind of just fell apart. I thought BVS was like, it was alright. I thought Suicide Squad was just terrible. I thought Shazam 2 and, the other DCU stuff. DCEU stuff. Now, you could think otherwise. You could think that BVS was a good movie. Okay? But I think the Snyderverse kind of ruined the DC brand because it hasn't really been having that many good movies. It was just like it was that bad where they just had to reboot. They had to start all the way over. They had to fire Henry Cavill, fire the entire Justice League cast. They had to fire Ben Affleck, all that, and and then came in the Batman, which proves my point that Batman has been holding the DC brand. Yeah, and then Arkham Shadow, you know, because the Batman came out, and then people started to be like, "Oh man, now I'm starting. I like Batman now because man." And then when Arkham Shadow came out, people started paying attention to that. Um, and then Suicide Squad, which I don't really want to talk about because if you like the game, you like the game, but I hated the game. It did Batman so wrong. I may talk about that in a video. I may. But the Suicide Squad, that probably also ruined it. This killed the Justice League. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Probably also ruined the DC brand. It did Kevin Conroy dirty. It killed him off in the worst possible way. It's in a way it made people hate the DC universe because after that game, people were like, man, this game sucks so bad that it almost made me hate the DC universe. I didn't like Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. I thought that should have not happened. I thought like Batman Beyond should have happened, and Zack Snyder's universe, it tried too hard to compete with Marvel. It tried too hard to catch up with Marvel. They were already part two was literally going to be Endgame. It was like it. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, part two was going to be like Endgame. It was going to be similar to Endgame. And I was like, world building. I want to have a Superman 2 before I get a Justice League movie. I want to have a Batman movie before I get a Justice League movie. I want to have, well, shoot, I want to have a Batman movie before I get a World's Finest movie or a Batman versus Superman movie. And that's something that And it wasn't really Zack Snyder's fault. It was really WB's fault at times because they're the ones who try to rush it. They're the ones who try to compete with Marvel. They're the ones who try to catch up with Marvel. When when Marvel started, they had the world build. They had to get their Iron Man 2 and Captain America and Thor until they got their Avengers. They had the world build, and I think that that's what the Snyderverse just did not try to do. It just tried to compete. It just tried to just hurry up, and go to Marvel, go to the MCU, and that's something that I think that kind of just made the universe a bit of a mess at times. It was just trying to rush at times. Again, the only movie that was a hit was Aquaman, and really that's it. Not a hit, but like $1 billion movie. Um, and the fans are now at war, you know, with the Snyderverse. If there's a movement called Restore the Snyderverse or Wall is Closed, which I'm not a part of. I don't want to be a part of anything where I just go to boycott a movie because I didn't get my Snyderverse. But that's where we are right now. But like there's a fan base where they want the Snyderverse, and then the other fan base is like, we don't want the Snyderverse. We want to continue with this DC universe. And now they're just battling out, one is trying to flop every DC movie, one is trying to make every DC universe, every DC movie to spread rumors saying, oh, this movie's succeeding, and right now it's just the fans are at war. The movies aren't doing good. The shows, I mean, Injustice, I thought fell off. Flash season 1 and 2 and 3 were good, and it fell off. I think after maybe season 4. Then it goes to Arrow. I thought Arrow was actually all the seasons, in my opinion. I think there was one that I just didn't like. I think it was I think it was like season 5 or 4. It was one season I didn't like about episode, but I think the shows, like, they were good, and like for the DC universe, for the shows like season 1, 2, and 3, they were good, but it falls off after season 4 or just after season 3, and that's something that the DC universe shows did, is that they fell off with the shows, they fell off with the gaming after Batman Arkham Knight. Well, they caught up with Arkham Shadow, but that was a VR game that it was Oculus 3. It really it didn't build the gaming back up. Wonder Woman could have, but guess what? They canceled. They canceled Wonder Woman. They just canceled it. So they fired Zack Snyder. They just fired him. They fired Henry Cavill, and then here comes James Gunn. Now, again, I'm not a James Gunn fan. I don't love James Gunn. I loved Superman. I thought Superman was a great start to the DC universe, to the DCU. Here's the thing where I love what James Gunn is doing, is that he's focusing on world building. That's what I was so glad of hearing from what James Gunn said. I'm like, two things that James Gunn said in his announcement for the DC universe. He said they're focusing on the script, the storytelling, which I'm very glad, and they're also focusing on the world building, storytelling matters when it comes to a movie. It's storytelling and world building. You want to introduce these characters. You don't want to just rush to a Justice League movie or an Endgame movie. No, introduce these characters. Let these characters grow and build. Let us explore this DC world. One guy, I think, on my comic section told me that they're happy that James Gunn is focusing on comedy, horror, and uh, and cosmic, and the spectacular stuff. The fantastical. He's focusing on the fantastical, the comedy, the horror, and he's focusing on really a lot of stuff and he's putting all of that in his DC universe, which I think is really a good thing. He's exploring these low level characters that we don't know about, and he's introducing us to Creature Commandos, Peacemaker. Well, the Authorities is probably ain't gonna happen. Booster Gold, Clayface, But that's something that I also don't like is that he's trying to focus too much. He's focusing, in my opinion, too much on the low level characters. Sure, even though we got Superman, which was a great movie, he's in my opinion he's focusing just a lot on low level characters like Peacemaker, Creature Commandos. Like I really didn't like how Creature Commandos was like the first project of the DC universe. Um, it was like the first project of besides for Superman. Superman was like the first movie of the DCU. But Creature Commandos was the first project, and like Creature Commandos, we don't like a lot of people really don't know who Creature Commandos are, and like James Gunn just decided, let's do a Creature Commandos. James Gunn, in my opinion, I think two things I don't like about what James Gunn is doing is that he's focusing a little too much on comedy, and he's focusing a little too much on low level characters, which is also a good thing because you want to explore these low level characters. But just I don't want I want James Gunn to also focus on Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Booster Gold. Just like he's focusing, I think, too much on low level characters like Sergeant Rock and the Authorities and Clayface. Like Clayface is now just a new movie for the DC universe, for the DCU, and I was like, and I know why Clayface is happening because it was such a good script that it allowed it to happen. But something I also like about this DC universe is that it's not like Marvel. You know, for Superman, we really, it wasn't like at the ending of the post credit scene. Spoiler alert for Superman. Post credit scene. If you didn't see it, you may want to click out. The post credit scene showed Supergirl, but it didn't really tease anything. It didn't say, "Oh, I'm going up to space to fight Lobo," or "I'm going to do this." No, it just showed her taking her dog and leaving. She didn't say really anything about, well, she did kind of cut Superman out, but and I talked about why I like this Supergirl, but it wasn't teasing any Justice League movie or any, big, um, big villain, big bad. No, it was his own movie. It wasn't really setting up anything. That's why they did Clayface, because if they did Clayface, okay, Clayface is just a movie. It's not setting up anything. Supergirl is not setting up anything. The only thing Superman is setting up is the DC universe, is the DCU, but it's not setting up any big bad, any big project or the next movie. No, it's setting up the DCU, and that's why I'm glad that James, because you don't have to watch Superman to understand World's Finest. You don't have to watch Brave and the Bold to understand World's Finest or Justice League. No, you just go. If you missed out on Superman, okay, it's fine. You just go ahead and watch Justice League. You're not missing out on anything. Well, I think you are probably gonna miss out on stuff, but you know. So I'm glad that James Gunn is not just focusing that much. He's not focusing on, really trying to introduce this next big project. I'm glad that he's really focusing on trying to, just world build up these characters. He's not trying to introduce a really big project. No, he's just introducing these characters and world and make and just he's not trying to go ahead and introduce a Justice League movie. No, he's building up these characters. He's letting us enjoy these characters. He's letting us enjoy this, explore this DC universe. That's why I'm glad that James Gunn doing it. I really only have one problem is that he focuses on comedy, and too much on comedy. Like all of his movies were really kind of comedy. But again, I didn't really have any problem. I didn't really have any problem with Superman's comedy. I didn't really think it was really that big. But I'm glad that James Gunn is focusing on storytelling and world building. That's why I think that we're having a Teen Titans movie coming out. We're having Booster Gold. We're having Dynamic Duos. We're having Wonder Woman. We're having Brave and the Bold. We're having the Batman Part 2. The DC universe is building. We're getting Supergirl, Lantern. We're getting all these characters back. And I think that the DC brand is saved. I think that the DC brand will live on after Superman. So I'm happy where we are right now. But guys, that's really what I wanted to talk about. Guys, I have looked at my last video. Man, I have so many likes. I think 18, around 17 likes. Guys, thank you for the likes. I really appreciate it, guys. Um, thank you for the comment section. Thank you for commenting on the video, guys. Please comment what you thought of the video. Comment what you think. What do you think that the DC brand is saved? Are you happy with James Gunn's DC universe? Do you think James Gunn's the right fit? Let me know, guys. Thank you for the views. Thank you for the 29 subscribers. We're almost to 30, guys. Please, one more subscriber to 30. I really want to get to 30 or 50 by the end of this year. Or honestly, let's try to get to 100 at the end of this year. But guys, that's it. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and I'll see you next time.